36 years. That is how long Phil Mickelson walked into at least one major championship every single season. From 1991 to 2025, he never missed them all. Not once. But 2026 just changed that forever. The Masters, he withdrew. The PGA Championship, he withdrew. The US Open, he did not even qualify. And the Open Championship, he submitted his entry. His name was on the list, and then he vanished, erased. For the first time in his life, Phil Mickelson is sitting at home while all four majors play out without him. Let that sink in. A six-time major winner. A guy who won a major at 50 years old. A guy who built his entire legacy on showing up when it mattered most. And now, he is not there. Not because of an injury. Not because of a suspension. Something else is happening, and the deeper you look, the messier it gets. You already know the headlines about his live move. You know about the gambling, the ego, the lawsuits. But this is different. This is a slow-motion collapse that started behind closed doors, accelerated with a family health crisis, and hit a breaking point just weeks before the Open, when new allegations surfaced. Allegations that made the R&A go silent and left Phil with nowhere to hide. The timing could not have been worse, and the consequences are still unfolding. Here is where I land on this. I do not think Phil walked away willingly. I think the system, the calendar, and the pressure pushed him out. But I want to know where you stand. Is Phil Mickelson a victim of circumstance, or did he bring this on himself? Drop your take in the comments, and if you actually care about the real story behind the leaderboard, not the fluff, not the PR spin, hit that subscribe button. We are building something for fans who want the truth. Because this story is not over yet. Not even close. Not even close. But to understand how we got here, how a man who never missed a major suddenly vanished from all four, we have to rewind to the very first cracks, and they started showing up way before the Masters. Back in January 2026, Phil was supposed to open his LIV golf season in Riyadh, then Adelaide, then Hong Kong. He played none of them. The official word was family health issues. Vague, quiet, no details. For a guy who normally cannot stop talking, the silence was the first real warning sign, but most of us shrugged it off. Family comes first. Nobody argues with that. Then April hit. The Masters. Augusta National. A course Phil has owned like few others in history. 3 green jackets. 30 appearances. He did not just skip any tournament. He skipped Augusta. The one place where the roars are louder for him than almost anyone alive. And he withdrew without a fight. That was the moment the golf world stopped shrugging and started paying attention. But here is where it gets heavier. May. The PGA Championship. Think about what that event means to Phil. He won it in 2021 at Kiawah Island. 50 years old. The oldest major winner in history. That trophy is part of his immortal legacy. And when the field filled up for 2026, he was not on the list. He released a message through his team, barely 4 sentences long. The last line hit harder than anything. I wish I could. I can't. Short. Cold. Final. That is not the Phil we know. The Phil we know fights. The Phil we know begs, borrows, and schemes his way into contention. The Phil we know plays through arthritis, through personal scandals, through the worst stretches of his career. But this time, he did not fight. He just disappeared. And the worst part? The US Open was already looming in June, and nobody even knew if he could get in. His exemption had run out. He would have needed a special invite. He never asked for one. By the time summer arrived, the whispers had turned into full-blown questions. But here is the ugly truth about 2026. The game itself stopped making room for him. Take the US Open, for example. That tournament has a very specific rule. Past champions do not get a free pass forever. Phil won it back in 2013. That exemption lasted 10 years. After that, you are on your own. You either qualify through your world ranking, you win another major, or you beg the USGA for a special exemption. Phil did none of those things. He could have asked. He had the resume for it. Jack Nicklaus got special exemptions. Tom Watson got them. But Phil? He stayed quiet. No phone call. No press release. No attempt to charm his way in. For a guy who built his career on charm, that silence was deafening. Was it pride? Was he too stubborn to ask for help? Or did he already know something we did not? That his game was not ready, that his mind was not in it, that the fire was just Gone. Because here is the reality. If you are Phil Mickelson, you do not miss a US Open just because you are tired. You miss it because something deeper is broken. And the deeper that crack went, the more people started asking the same question. Is he ever coming back? That question hung in the air all through June. And while the golf world was speculating about his future, a much darker storm was gathering in the background. The reports were not about his swing. They were not about his age. They were about his behavior. And what came next would destroy any remaining chance he had to step onto a major stage in 2026. Just a few weeks before the Open Championship, a bombshell article dropped. It was written by a journalist who has covered Phil for decades. The piece detailed allegations that went far beyond gambling or business deals. It talked about inappropriate conduct, flashing private images to a player's wife, getting removed from his home club, the Farms, over an incident with a female staff member, other clubs cutting ties with him entirely. Now, let us be clear about something. Phil's lawyers pushed back hard. They said some of it was false. They said other parts involved things he had already admitted to years ago. But that is not the point. The point is the timing. The story hit the internet with full force right as the Open was finalizing its field, and the R&A, which runs the Open, went completely silent. No statements of support, no calls for investigation, just nothing. That silence spoke volumes. Because remember, Phil had already submitted his entry. He had a lifetime exemption as the 2013 champion. He was supposed to be on that list. His name was there. For a moment, it looked like he might actually show up. But then the reports started circulating. The media started calling. The questions started piling up. And suddenly, Phil had a choice. Show up and face the fire, or walk away and let the silence protect him. He chose the silence. A few days before the tournament, his camp confirmed he would not be playing. No dramatic press conference. No emotional explanation. Just a quiet withdrawal that felt more like an erasure than a decision. And just like that, the streak was over. He had a lifetime pass to the Open. But the golf world just found out that some doors close even when they are wide open. Because make no mistake, Phil was not banned. The R&A did not officially bar him. But they did not fight for him either. They did not defend him. They let him fade into the background. And for a player who has lived his entire life in the spotlight, being ignored is worse than being booed. Now, think about the weight of that moment. This is the Open Championship, the oldest major in the world. The one tournament Phil arguably cares about the most, aside from the Masters. He won it in 2013 with that magical final round at Muirfield. He held the claret jug. He drank from it. He kissed it. And in 2026, he was nowhere near it. 4 majors, 0 appearances. For the first time in 36 years. Let that number sit for a second. 36 years. That is longer than most of us have been alive. That is a streak that survived the prime of Tiger Woods, the rise of Rory McIlroy, the entire LIV golf split, and 5 different presidents. And it died not because of a bad back or a missed cut, but because the man at the center of it could not face the storm. But here is the part that should scare every golf fan. Phil is not the only one affected by this. His absence creates a domino effect that ripples through the entire sport. Think about the players on the bubble, the young guys trying to make a name for themselves, the veterans trying to hold on. Every time a superstar like Phil walks away, it changes the math. It changes the sponsors. It changes the TV ratings. And it changes the opportunities for the players below him. There is a harsh rule in professional golf right now. When a big name withdraws late, it does not just open a spot for someone else. It often closes doors for the alternates. The system is rigid. The fields are tight. And when Phil pulled out of the Open, he did not just hurt himself. He shifted the entire landscape of who gets to play, who gets to earn FedEx Cup points, and who gets to chase their own dreams. That is the ugly reality nobody wants to talk about. The Phil Mickelson story is not just about one guy losing his way. It is about a system that no longer knows how to handle its aging legends. It is about a calendar that squeezes traditional tournaments into oblivion. It is about players being forced to choose between money, legacy, and their own sanity. Because let us be honest, Phil is not the first legend to struggle with the end. We have seen it before. Arnold Palmer struggled. Jack Nicklaus struggled. Tom Watson nearly won the Open at 60, but even he could not hold on forever. The difference is, those guys went out gracefully. They embraced the farewell tours. They waved to the crowds and took their bows. Phil, he does not do graceful. He does not do quiet. He is the guy who bets millions on football games. He is the guy who says outrageous things to the media. He is the guy who split with the PGA Tour and took Saudi money when nobody else had the guts to do it. So watching him fade away in silence, watching him vanish without a fight, that feels wrong. That feels unfinished. But walking away from the majors was the easy part. The real nightmare started when he looked for a place to land. Because where does he go now? Live Golf is his home base, but even that is uncertain. Rumors have been swirling for months that the Saudi-backed league might not survive in its current form. Mergers are being discussed, buyouts are being floated, and if Live collapses, Phil does not have a soft landing. He cannot go back to the PGA Tour easily. That bridge is burnt. The fines alone would be in the millions. The suspensions would be brutal, and even if he paid everything, there is no guarantee the players would welcome him back. He burned too many relationships. He said too many things. For a guy who once ruled the locker room, he is now the odd man out. Some analysts have started calling him a man without a country. It sounds dramatic, but it fits. He does not belong to the PGA Tour anymore. He does not fully belong to LIV anymore. And now, he does not even belong to the majors. He is a ghost floating between tours, between contracts, between the past and a future that does not want him. And that is the saddest part of this whole story. Phil Mickelson has made hundreds of millions of dollars. He has won everything there is to win. But right now, in 2026, he has no home. He has no tournament to call his own. He has no major to prepare for. He is just waiting. Waiting for what? Nobody knows. Not even him. Which leaves us with the question nobody wants to answer. Is this how it really ends? Because if this is the ending, it is a terrible one. It is not a victory lap. It is not a standing ovation. It is a quiet exit through the side door. No farewell speech, no final putt on the 18th green. Just a name removed from the entry list. Look, I have watched Phil Mickelson play golf for over 2 decades. I have seen the highs, the 2004 Masters, the 2013 Open, the 2021 PGA at 50 years old. I have also seen the lows, the US Open collapses, the tax evasion case, the LIV defection. But through all of it, he was always there. He was always in the conversation. He was always one good round away from making history. Now, he is just gone. And that is what makes this week so heavy. The Open Championship will go on. The best players in the world will tee it up at Royal Birkdale. The crowds will cheer. The trophy will be presented. But for the first time in 36 years, Phil Mickelson will not be part of it. And somehow, the tournament feels emptier because of it. So I will ask you the same question I asked at the start. Is this his fault? Did he bring this on himself with his choices, his ego, his willingness to burn bridges? Or is he a victim of a sport that chews up its legends and spits them out when they get too old or too complicated? I do not have the full answer, but I know one thing for sure. This is not the way a legend should fade. A guy with 6 majors deserves a better ending than this. A guy who fought for 36 years deserves to walk off the course on his own terms. But golf is not fair, and neither is time. So here is my POV. I think Phil got pushed out by forces bigger than himself. But I also think he handed them the ammunition. If you agree, drop a comment. If you think I am wrong, tell me why. And if you actually care about the real stories behind the scores, not the sanitized press releases, hit that subscribe button now. We are the only channel that tells it like it is. No fluff, no fake praise. Just the truth about the game we all love. Because this is not the end of the Phil Mickelson story. It is just the end of a chapter. And knowing Phil, he is probably planning his comeback right now. But for 2026, the majors will play on without him. And for the first time in 36 years, that just feels wrong. The claret jug will be lifted in a few days. Somebody new will write their name in history. But for millions of us, we will be looking at that trophy and remembering the guy who used to be there. The guy who made us laugh. The guy who made us cringe. The guy who never, ever gave up. Until this year. Until he did.